Hi, whenever we talk about Euclid's division lemma, there are various questions that come into our mind. Questions like what exactly is Euclid's division lemma? Do we really use Euclid's division lemma? Where is it used in our daily lives? And what is the concept behind it? How do we solve questions related to Euclid's division lemma? So these are all the questions that we are hoping to solve in this particular video of ours. And I request you to stay till the end of the video because in the end we are going to discuss some common mistakes that people do when using the Euclid's division lemma. So make sure that you don't repeat those mistakes. So come on, let's nail it. So first of all, let's understand what lemma actually means. Well, lemma actually means a proven statement used to prove another statement, meaning it's a statement which is used to prove another statement, and we'll study about it, how to use it, and we are going to try to understand what a lemma means or how to use it by looking at various examples. So we'll first look at some common examples using numbers and then convert it into a general form. So for that purpose, let me take the numbers 12, 13, 14, 15 and 16. Well, let me leave some space for myself at the top, so let me bring it a little down. And now let's see what happens when we divide these numbers by 2. So we are looking at division by 2. So I can write 12 as 2 times 6. 13 can be written as 2 times 6, which is 12, and it leaves a remainder behind by 1. So I can write it as 2 times 6 plus 1. 14 can simply be written as 2 times 7. 15 can be written as 2 times 7, which is 14, and it leaves a remainder of 1. So plus 1, and 16 is just 2 times 8. Now in the other cases, in case of 12, 14 and 16, we haven't written anything, but it just means that it leaves a remainder of 0. So let me write it on the side here that when a number is divided by 2 or when we do division by 2, it is of the form 2q, which means 2 times the quotient, or it can be of the form 2 times q plus 1, which means it leaves behind a remainder of 1. So either it leaves no remainder or it leaves a remainder of 1. Now let me delete this and look at division by 3. What happens when we divide these numbers by 3? So again 12 can be written as 3 times 4, which is 12. 13 can be written as 3 times 4, which is 12, and it leaves a remainder of 1. 14 is again 3 times 4, which is 12, and it leaves a remainder of 2. 15 is just 3 times 5, no remainder, and 16 is 3 times 5 plus a remainder of 1. So that again, and if we look at 17 also, it will leave a remainder of 2, and then again it will be 18, no remainder. So the series, the cycle will continue. So again, let me write it on the side that when we do division by 3, the number that we are dividing can be written in the form 3q, which means 3 times the quotient, whatever the quotient is, or it can be of the form 3q plus 1, where it leaves a remainder of 1, or it can be 3q plus 2, where it leaves a remainder of 2. Again, let me get rid of all this and look at what happens when we divide by 4. So on division by 4, 12 can be written as 4 times 3, which is 12. 13 can be written as 4 times 3, which is 12, and it leaves a remainder of 1. 14 is 4 times 3, 12, plus a remainder of 2. 15 is 4 times 3, which is 12, and it leaves a remainder of 3. And 16 is just 4 times 4. So we are coming back to the same thing as in the case of 12, where it leaves no remainder. And again, if we continue, again it will be 4 times the quotient plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 and so on. So let me write this also on the side that when we are doing division by 4, we can write it in the form 4q or 4q plus 1, where there's a remainder of 1, 4q plus 2, where there's a remainder of 2, and 4q plus 3, where there's a remainder of 3. Okay, so before we continue, I would like to remind you that you're watching the video from Exponent to Success, and I keep doing these things a lot on my channel. And if you aren't subscribed to the channel as yet, do click on the subscribe button below the video, and do not forget to click on the bell notification also, so that all future uploads are intimated to you. Okay, so let's understand what exactly have we got here. So we looked at a number, so let's take it as a, and when we divide a number by 2, 3 or 4 or any number which is b, we always get a quotient, so it's b times q, and it leaves a remainder of some number, which let's take it as r. So the general form of the Euclid's division lemma is a is equal to bq plus r. Now there are some rules also regarding A, B, Q and R, and those are that A and B should both be belonging to integers. We should be having A should be greater than B, but even if it is less than B, it does not matter, because then it just leaves a quotient of 0. So that's also possible. And if we look at r, like we saw, it could be 0 or 1 in the case of 2, 0, 1, 2 in the case of 3, and or 0, 1, 2 and 3 in the case of 4. So you see that the b is always greater than r, or r, the remainder, is always less than b. But the remainder can be 0, it can be 1, it can be 2, or anything. It can be any number less than b. Now let me take these things up here and let's continue with it. I don't need these things also, so let's get rid of that. Now what happens when we divide a number by 7? So if we divide by 7, the number can be of the form 7q, where there's no remainder, or it leaves a remainder of something, which is 7q plus 1, 7q plus 2, 7q plus 3, 7q plus 4, 7q plus 5, 7q plus 6, or 7q plus 7. Hey, but r couldn't have been less than b, it couldn't have been equal to b. So if b was equal to 7, r has to be less than that, so it can only go up to 6. We can't have 7q plus 7. So do remember that r is always less than b. So let us erase that and continue doing some problems. So the question that we have is that if a number is divided by 73, it leaves 34 as the quotient and 23 as the remainder, and we have to find what that number was. So let's write the general form of the Euclid's division lemma. So we know that A is equal to BQ plus R. In this case, we know that the number is being divided by 73. So obviously B has to be the 73, which is the divisor. Q is the quotient, and the quotient is given as 34. And R is the remainder, and the remainder here is given as 23. And we have to find what A is. So that's pretty simple. Let's plug these values back into the equation that we have, or in the formula that we have. So A will then be equal to B, which is 73, times the quotient, which is 34, plus the remainder, which is 23. And let's do 73 times 34 now. Now this is a method which I usually do for quick multiplication, and this method is used in Vedic maths. And if you haven't learned about this method or don't know about this method, I've made a video on that too, and just click on the top right corner of the screen and you'll be able to understand how to do fast multiplication. So we got 73 times 34 is 2482 plus 23, which is the remainder. Let's add that. So 2 plus 3 is 5, 8 plus 2 is 10, 1 carried forward, and 4 plus 1 is 5, and 2. So obviously the number, or A, happens to be 2505. And again, if you divide it by 73, you'll notice that the quotient is 34 and that the remainder is 23. Okay, so let's have a look at another question. So it says that if n is an odd positive integer, then prove that n square minus 1 is divisible by 8. Now it is given that n is an odd positive integer. So if n is an odd positive integer, we can write it in two possible ways. Now if we take it as 4q, 4q is going to be even because it's a multiple of 4. So it obviously has to be 4 cube plus 1, or there's another possibility that it could be 4 cube plus 3. Now 4 cube plus 2 is again going to be even, so we are not considering that case because it is given as an odd positive integer. So there are two cases here. Let's solve for both of them. So case number 1, where n is equal to 4 cube plus 1, and we are looking at n square minus 1. So we'll take the value of n as we have taken above, which is 4 cube plus 1. So we'll square that, and we have a minus 1 after that. So when we expand this bracket, we can just write it as 4q whole square plus 2ab, which means 2 times 4q times 1 plus 1 square, and we have got this 1 in the end. So simplifying that, we get 16q square plus 2 times 4q times 1 is 8q plus 1 and minus 1 in the end. Again, simplifying it, we get 16q squared plus 8q, and the 1 and 1 can get cancelled out. And then we can factorize it. We can take 8 as common. So when we take 8 as common, what we are left inside is 2q squared plus q. And now since we have factored out 8, that means n square minus 1 is now a multiple of 8, or is divisible by 8. Let's look at case number 2 now, where we take n as 4 cube plus 3. Again, it's a simple thing. We are again going to take n square minus 1, and instead of n now, we are going to take 4 cube plus 3 whole square minus 1. Simplify that, so that again becomes a square, so 4q whole square plus 2ab, so 2 times 4q times 3 plus b square, so that's going to be 3 square, and we've got minus 1 in the end. So simplifying that, we get 16q square plus 2 times 4q is 8q, 8q times 3 is 24q, plus 3 square is 9 and minus 1. Again, we can simplify it further, so that becomes 16q square plus 24q, and 9 minus 1 is 8, so plus 8. Again, we can factor out the 8, and what we are left inside the bracket is 2q square plus 3q plus 1. So again, you see that n square minus 1 is a multiple of 8, or we can say that n square minus 1 is divisible by 8. And we have proved the second case also, and since there were only two possible cases where if it had to be an odd number, and we have covered all the possible cases, that means it's always going to be divisible by 8. And let's look at a third example also, where we have to prove that the cube of any positive integer will always be of the form 9m, 9m plus 1, or 9m plus 8. So we are looking at the cube of a number. So n, let's assume that n is any positive integer, and we take three different cases. So we can say that case 1, where n is 3q, or it's a multiple of 3, or there's case 2, where it is not a multiple of 3 but it leaves behind a remainder of 1, so that means it can be written in the form 3q plus 1, or it leaves a remainder behind of 2, which is case number 3, that n is equal to 3q plus 2. Now I think I'm going to run out of space, so just let me bring it a little this side. And now it's just a question of solving these things, plugging the value of n into n cube. So we start with n cube because we are looking at the cube of a positive integer. So the first case, 3q whole cube, that is going to be 3 cube is 27 and q cube is cube. So 27 cube. We can factorize it by 9, so we get 9 times 3q cube. Now if we take 3q cube as m, we can say that n cube can now be written in the form 9m. So we've got the first case covered. Let's look at case number 2, where instead of 3q, we are now taking n as taking the form 3q plus 1. Let's find n cube then. So it's going to be 3q plus 1, that is the value of n, and we are going to cube that. And to understand this, we should remember the identity that we have, that a plus b whole cube is going to be nothing but a cube plus b cube plus 3ab times a plus b. So let's substitute these values into the identity and we get a cube, which is going to be 3q whole cube plus b cube, so that's just 1 cube, plus 3ab, so 3 times 3q times 1 times a plus b, so a plus b is again 3q plus 1. Let's shift this also a little this side so that I have space for case number 3 also. Let's simplify this, so we get 3 cube whole cube as 27q cube plus 1 cube is just 1 plus 3 times 3q is 9q times 1, so that's 9q times, within brackets I've got 3q plus 1. I can open the brackets now, so I get 27q cube plus 1 plus 9q times 3q is going to give me 27q squared plus 9q times 1 is going to give me 9q. I can again factorize out the 9, so I'll be left with 3q cube. 1 is not divisible by 9, so 27q squared, so that will be 3q squared plus 9q. Since we have factorized out the 9, we are left with just q, and the leftover 1 we can write it at the end. So again, if we take this whole thing as m, we can say that n cube can take the form 9m plus 1. So we've got the second case also covered. Now let's look at the third case, where we take n as 3q plus 2. That means when it is divided by 3, it leaves behind a remainder of 2. So again, we are going to cube that number, so n cube is going to be 3q plus 2 whole cube. Again, using the identity, we can write it as 3q whole cube, which is a cube, plus b cube, which means 2 cube, plus 3ab, so 3 times 3q times 2 times a plus b, so that is just 3q plus 2. Simplifying this, I get 3q whole cube is 27q cube plus 2 cube is 8 plus 3 times 3q is 9q, 9q times 2 is 18q, and within brackets I've got 3q plus 2. I can open the brackets now, so I get 27q cube plus 8 plus 18q times 3q is 54q square plus 18q times 2 is 36q. I can again factorize out the 9, so I'll be left with 3q cube. 8 is not divisible by 9, so 54q square divided by 9 is going to give me 6q square, and I'll be left with 4q over here. And since we had left out the 8, I can write it at the end. So again, if I take this whole thing as m, we know that n cube can now take the form of 9m plus 8. So we've got the third case also covered, and since we had only 3 possible cases, we have covered all the cases, so we can say that the cube of any positive integer will always be of the form 9m, 9m plus 1 or 9m plus 8. Okay, now let's have a look at the question again that we did previously in the video, and this to explain to you the common mistakes that people make so that you do not make those mistakes again. So since it says that n is an odd positive integer, that means it's an odd, so it can be written in the form 2q plus 1. So let's take n as 2q plus 1, and we have to prove that n square minus 1 is divisible by 8. So let's find n square. So n square is 2q plus 1 whole square, and add to that the one that we have there. So let's expand the bracket. So 2q whole square is 4q square, and then 2ab, which means 2 times 2q times 1, which is 4q, and plus 1 square, which is 1, and we get this remaining one. So that's 4q square plus 4q plus 2. Oh, actually, I made a mistake there. That should have been minus. So the 1 and 1 gets cancelled. So we are just left with 4q squared plus 4q. But that does not tell us anything about divisibility by 8. So this is one of the common mistakes that people do, that when we are looking at the square of a number, we start by taking a positive integer as or an odd integer as 2q plus 1. We should understand that when we are taking a square of a number, it should be divisible by 8. So it's a better way to take 4q plus 1 or 4q plus 3 like we did earlier in the video. And to understand the second mistake that people normally make, let's have a look at the previous question again that we did earlier in the video. So we have to look at the cube of a number. So it's n cube, and they have given that it is in the form 9m, 9m plus 1 or 9m plus 8. That means we are looking at division by 9. So you can take the cases as 9m or 9m plus 1 or 9m plus 2 and keep going with up to 9m plus 8. That means you have to cover a total of 9 different cases, and you have to find cube of the number every time, cube of a two terms expression 9m plus 1, 9m plus 2. It's going to become very complicated and it's going to take a very long time. But again, we want to simplify our work, so we look at another way we can write this out. So we know that n is a positive integer, is any positive integer. Let's assume it to be that. Now n could be odd or it could be even. There are only two possible cases. So if it's an even number, we are looking at 2q whole cube, which is given us 8q cube. Now how do we prove that it's divisible by 9? That's not possible, is it? So again, that takes us back to the earlier problem, the way we solved it in the beginning, that since we are not looking at 8, we are looking at divisibility by 9. Therefore, let's take the number division by 3, because 3q, if we cube that, we get 27q cube, and then that will be divisible by 9. Now we need to understand how to use the Euclid's division lemma, because lemma we understood in the beginning that it's a proven statement used to prove another statement. Now the statement that it is going to prove is called the Euclid's division algorithm, where it's a step-by-step process on how to do the division. So we have to learn that also, but that I'll leave it for the next video. So do click on this video appearing on the screen to learn that. If the video is not here yet, just click on my picture here so that you get subscribed to the channel, so that whenever it is there, it will be notified to you. And have a look at these videos also appearing on the screen. And as far as Euclid's division lemma is concerned, I think you've nailed it. Take care. God bless.